SCG Passion for Better
สวัสดีค่ะสวัสดีท่านแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านค่ะ Good afternoon and once again welcome back to the SD Symposium 2019 and this year it's very special for the event because it's marked at its 10th anniversary of the global and national collaborations between the government, private and public sectors including in the Asian countries in order to create the sustainability development and in this afternoon sessions we have a very interesting sessions for you to go and in the breakout 3 sessions we're gonna present you in the topic of the partnership for circular economy and me Sasini Amon Ratanakorn from SCG will take this opportunity to bring you to the panel discussion แต่ว่าก่อนที่เราจะเข้าสู่ในช่วงของ panel discussion นะคะในโอกาสนี้ค่ะสำหรับผู้มีเกียรติท่านใดนะคะที่ใช้อุปกรณ์ translator headset ค่ะสามารถปรับโหมดเปลี่ยนภาษาได้เลยนะคะโดยเลื่อนไปที่ในหมายเลข4 channel 4 นั่นเองค่ะและ Firstly, before we get started, I'd like to welcome you with a special talk by Mr. Jorge Shadek, Director and Envoy of the Secretary General on South-South Cooperations of UNOSSC. So please give a big round of applause for Mr. Jorge.
Thank you very much, dear friends, dear panelists. It is for our office a great honor to co-sponsor this event because our mandate is to promote what is called South-South cooperation, which is cooperation among developing countries. And we really need good examples of the implementation of the circular economy in the global South. When you look at the presentations and you realize the commitments most of the companies of the North are making, it is a result of strong social demands and also the fact that many of their economies are not as dependent as the extraction of commodities that belong to the first phase of the production process as the countries of the South. So for them it is a logical next step in the context of the challenge of global sustainability to adapt the circular economy as their mode of production and also as their mode to relating with society. On the other hand, in the South, sometimes it can be contradictory to the natural role of the southern countries, the traditional role of the southern countries in the global production schemes. The southern countries are producers of those commodities, of those raw materials that are the ones that we are trying to eliminate or reduce significantly in their use through the circular economy. So in a way, it's less urgent, the challenge in the South, and in a way it can be considered even contradictory. At the same time, we have no choice. It's not that the adoption of these patterns of production and consumption is a luxury that societies and companies can afford when we reach a certain level of development. My colleague from UN Environment was telling me only 5% of the plastic in the world is being reprocessed. And probably we have similar figures with many of these other raw materials or industrial products. And in the case of the South, we will be literally drowning on this type of residue, or we will be poisoning our water and our atmosphere if our productive systems do not adopt the model of the circular economy. It is particularly important because most of the economic growth, most of the population growth, most of the urban growth of the next 25, 30 years will take place in the South. And that is the reason we are partnering here with SCG. We need more examples of companies of the South that in the context of a government that is also making efforts to promote this modality are succeeding not as an element of philanthropy, but they're also incorporating it as a central element of their business model. Companies, after all, are not charities. They have to make a profit to be able to sustain themselves in the marketplace. So therefore, our interest in partnering and also launching the publication that was launched today is to show that it can be a good business proposition in addition to the global imperative that they represent. I want to emphasize that, to finalize by saying that the concept of the circular economy is very good, but in a way, I was discussing it with some people in the last few days, circular economy does not capture the complexity of what we are doing enough. Because circular assumes a two-dimensional approach to the productive process and the relationship of the company with the community. And in reality, if you really want to implement a circular economy beyond the scope of a single company, we really have to talk about multiple loops that interact with each other, and it is impossible to reflect them in a two-dimensional representation. So I was talking to some people that we can talk about the spherical economy, or eventually, or even the atomic economy, like the atom of uranium, that all the loops are interacting together in equilibrium. And the problem is when an electron gets out, maybe we can have an atomic explosion. But the idea is that we have to consider the circular economy, and perhaps as a matter of advocacy. And the reason being that otherwise circular economy seems to be a function only of the work of the company. If we accept this multidimensionality, we realize that the circular economy should include all the stakeholders of a company. They should include the shareholders, the employees, the customers, the suppliers, the communities, and the global marketplace to which they belong. So therefore, I really look forward to the results of this panel and help us really generate a wave of advocacy so the private sector in the global south becomes part of this economy. I will not put a qualifier at the moment, because it's not optional. Our current patterns of production and consumption are not sustainable, and SCG, God bless them, is showing us that it can be done. Thank you very much and good luck in the deliberation.
And thank you, Mr. Jorge, for your remarkable speech. And it's about time for the panel discussion on the topic of partnership for circular economy. And it's take the opportunity for our guest speaker to share that global partnership initiative of circular economy. And in this session, our guests, ladies and gentlemen, please give a big warm welcome to our special moderator for the session, Ms. Anthea Mulakala, Senior Director, International Development Corporations of the Asia Foundation. Please welcome.
Sound okay? Okay. Welcome to the afternoon session. We had a really exciting morning, and I hope that this session is going to be equally as invigorating as the discussions were this morning. This is a session that's very important because we're going to be talking about diverse partnerships and how to make them work in a circular economy context. Today, this morning, we've been talking about collaboration. This afternoon, we're going to push the limits on that a little bit, go deeper, and talk about partnerships. Partnerships which are value-driven, which are sustainable, but which are also inclusive. All of us are very comfortable working within our own silos, whether these be institutional, some of us come from government, others from the UN network. I work for an NGO. Many people here are from the corporate sector. We're used to working within those silos. We're also used to working within our own socioeconomic silos. Women talking to women, people of privilege talking to other people of privilege. And we really need to try to break out of those. Because if we really want to achieve the SDGs, we want a sustainable circular economy, we need to break out those silos and figure out how do we work together. That's the really challenging part, and that's what we're going to try to talk about this afternoon. Our panel today come from a range of institutional backgrounds, and they are going to present to you inspirational examples of how they've made partnerships work for the circular economy. So I'm going to start and introduce one person at a time, and they're going to come up and give you their very short Ignite presentation. That'll be followed by a panel discussion where we'll have some thought-provoking questions, and then we'll take some interventions and questions from the audience. So first, I'd like to introduce Mr. Dulai Kone, who is from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Dulai.
Thank you, moderator. Good afternoon. Hope everyone had a good lunch. The time is running here. Okay, now it's for me. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dulai. I'm sanitary engineer by background. Okay? So don't be surprised of the topic I'm going to share with you today. And it's a nice story about partnership, you will see. I'm a sanitary engineer, so when I travel in the world, and I can tell you I travel a lot, what I usually go and look at these things. Toilet. What type of toilet people use, and how do they look like? I work at the Gates Foundation on a program focusing on water and sanitation. We've invested the last 7 years, $200 million to try to improve this. If you are poor today in the world, you use a toilet which is in this range, okay? Left-hand side of the picture. If you are rich, it's on the right-hand side. And these are pictures from $1 Street. It's a very fantastic website which shows what's the range of inequality in the world. Toilets today are not inclusive, are not equal. And independently of what you use here, those toilets always pollute the environment and distribute diseases, disseminate diseases in the environment. People get sick, people die, because the waste which is collected and generated by this toilet is not properly treated and disposed. It's very unfortunate. I joined the foundation in 2011. It was 2009 when I got an invitation from Bill Gates to go for a meeting. I was very surprised. Bill Gates and toilet, what is the connection? But I got there and he was surrounded by top scientists. And all the conversation was, hey, why sanitation cannot be resolved? It's killing people, it's polluting the environment, it's a major contribution to child death. What can we do? So since then, I joined 2011, and the challenge we're taking now is trying, for 200 years, no innovation has happened in the toilet. It's only the same thing. If you use pit latrine, people have used that before. Ceramic toilet and the flush toilet invented 200 years ago. It's the same thing we use today. Every single other technology has evolved in the world. Okay, we can do better. We're in the 21st century. We want to be sustainable citizen. So we're looking for technologies, toilet technology that would operate without today's infrastructure. We don't need to send pathogen in the environment. We don't need to pollute. It has energy. We can harness that energy. We can come up with technology that would operate off-grid. We've invested enough in partnership, in great ideas. Now we need to take it to the next level. And this is one of the biggest events we hosted last year in November in Beijing. And we invited SCG to come and present. This is Bill Gates on the picture, introducing the new categories of toilet technologies that kill pathogen for real. You can use it, and you would not worry about someone else getting sick or pollution going into the environment. Not going to happen. And we need industries now to take this to market. This is where companies like SCG, global industries, who can actually develop a market, add value to what is coming from the universities to actually move this into the market. The system that SCG has developed, so these are pictures of one of the modules they are currently piloting here in Bangkok. So some of the great people behind this are sitting here in the room. So if you have a lot of questions, I will point you to them, okay? So it's not my technology. So this is a partnership where we come together. It's 100%, this case is 100% Thai innovation. We founded a university here in Thailand, AIT, the Asian Institute of Technology, to do initial R&D. As a philanthropy organization, our role is to reduce risk for others. We believe this is a new industry that would grow. So we put in resources, financial resources, to do the difficult things that government and companies cannot do. Finding the bright scientists, the great ideas, doing the hard work in the lab, bringing that in front of the industry so that they can feel comfortable, they can build a product out of that. Once we are there, then we can go into extending that partnership to make this a reality for everyone. So that's the story I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dulai. Really taking toilets to the next level for all of us. Our next speaker is Ms. Kakuko, and she's from the United Nations Environment Program. There are detailed bios on the fancy app that we were all given, so I'd encourage you to go to the apps to read the bios of each of our speakers.
Good afternoon. Sawadika. Well, that's all Thai. Thank you. Kopanka. Now I have used up only 2 Thai sentences that I can pronounce, Kopanka and Sawadika. It's my great pleasure to be in front of you, to be able to share what we, United Nations Environment Program, see in a partnership and how we are contributing to achieve sustainable development through partnership and being a good partner. I was asked to highlight one issue that depicts most about how we work in a partnership to achieve circular economy. We in the United Nations cover many issues. You know, world is full of environmental issues. We never run out of issues, so I will never run out of job. That's positive or negative, I will leave that judgment to you. But one topic that has really brought us to come together, think about the problem, and really try to come up with solution in recent year is plastic pollution. Plastic pollution has really engulfed us, almost like tsunami. We are literally drowning in plastic pollution. United Nations Environment Program is the global leader on the environmental agenda. We try to be the authoritative advocate of the global cause so that nations and people can come together to address today's environmental issue, ensure well-being of people, while ensuring also the well-being of future generations. When we talk about plastic pollution and what we do in a partnership, first I have to highlight our role to increase awareness on the issue globally. In 2018, we held the World Environment Day celebration, which is the 5th of June every year, on a topic, beat plastic pollution. And where did we hold the global celebration? In India. Well, India is not particularly a place that is known for clean environment, nor the good practice on plastic management. However, the President Modi has announced on that occasion that he will be eliminating unsustainable use of single-use plastic by 2022. Also, in Thailand, taking on that increasing level of global awareness, now we are supporting the local government and national government action to reduce and eventually eliminate 7 most polluting plastic items by 2027. And globally, now taking the cue that these countries are ready for further action, we have started the discussion of potentially a global treaty to reduce marine plastic litter and microplastics. So these are the roles that United Nations Environment play in partnership with government, businesses, and NGOs and individuals. I would like to ask a show of one image here, just behind me. Why we think it's so important to work in a partnership? Only by working in a partnership, we can establish collective understanding of what are the problems, and knowing the problem together is the only first step in finding solutions. When we talk about plastic pollution, often we are automatically asked to think, oh, those plastic bags that we get in the 7-Eleven, that's bad, that's evil. PET bottle, oh, you should not be carrying the PET bottle, shame on you. You should be carrying your own drinking bottle. But when we did a beach cleanup and analyzed what was collected, in one of the beach called Ban Seng in Thailand on 26th of May, these were the most predominant items that we saw on the beach. What are shocking, for example, the number 1 was rubber band. Who was thought about rubber band was the most culprit on the plastic pollution in Thailand. See, this kind of reality needs to be understood together so that our local, national, and global solution will be relevant to each locality, people, community that we work with. That's why we work in a partnership, and we United Nations Environment Program. Thank you for invitation and your attention.
Thank you, Kokuko. That last visual was particularly gripping. I think we all realize that we can be so obsessed with cotton buds or plastic bottles that we forget about the diversity of types of pollutants that we find in our environment. Our next speaker is Mr. Safri, coming from the Indonesian Ministry of Maritime Affairs.
Thank you. Good afternoon for all. It's a pleasure for us, for me especially, to join this special symposium. Then I would like to explain what's Indonesian progress, how we tackling the marine litter. As you know, it's become not just the Indonesian problem, but it's the world problem. Since the scientists from America say Indonesia one of the polluter country for the marine litter, it's like it was shock us, and then we move as quick as possible, and the government make a damn task force, and we also establish our national plan of action. At least we have 5 strategies how to tackle this the marine litter. As you mean, these 5, and we already mentioned, we already hear this morning about this about the change of behavior change. Now we have 5 national movement to increase awareness, especially to behavior change, waste management, prevention, and of course funding mechanism. This is now we move based on 18 ministries, not just one. So in Indonesia, not just one minister. We make it 18 ministries to join together how to handle this one, and not just for central government, also the local government. And we continue this one. Waste management. We understand we have at least 6 what we have done now. Now we have also river cleanup system technology, because we understand more than 400 river along the coast of Indonesia. As under our study mentioned that 80% of marine litters coming from the land. So we have to handle this one, and also integrated solid waste management program. We started this year under the support from the World Bank, and also we started our plastic to fuel and plastic tarot. As you know, one of the program SCG, and we have the plastic tarot, and we started already since 2017. And now Indonesia is already 100 kilometers. And waste to energy, we started waste to energy since last year, and now national program Citarum Harum. Maybe you know Citarum Harum, one of the biggest river in Java, one of the dirtiest river, 2016, now it's become one of the clean river in the West Java. And we saw here, this is one of the sample. Now we move to the river in Jakarta. We use it, we call it a river cleanup system. We have the under collaboration with the Netherlands government and one of the NGO. This is how we make it waste sources, river cleanup. And when we use this one, the plastic from this river, they use by Danone Aqua. It's a part of the how we do together. And the organic one, organized by the minister, we call it the district of the environment office. But for the plastic one, the non-organic one, they handled by the Danone. And this is a part of partnership. And we can show another thing. This is a plastic tarot. We have at least program is already since 2017, and he's been applied for several hundred. And you can see here now it's moved for all in the Indonesian area. As you know, Indonesia is one of the biggest archipelago country. That is not easy, but we try to do this. And if you see here also the recycle industry. Indonesia encouraged the growth of recycle industry. Indonesia maybe per capita is still not so big if compared like Thailand and Singapore per capita for how we use the plastic. But anyway, in Indonesia, the government now, how to reduce the number of single-use plastic. We have at least single-use plastic is some regency, at least more than 20 now, is already, what's called it, is already a statement that they would not to ban, but to make a limitation of the plastic, especially single-use plastic. This is the way, because in Indonesia, when you go to the final dumping area, most in final dumping area, you can find what you call it, the single-use plastic. So we have to reduce the number is one. So we make some campaign how to use the multi-use plastic. And this is the part of why we ask also the industry to this one. For this reason, we make it since the September last year and early of this year from the World Economic Forum, we call it Global Partnership in Plastic Action Partnership. Indonesia started to do in national partnership action for plastic, in national partnership for plastic action for national partnership for action national plastic action partnership. So it is start not just for the government. My colleague from SCG smile because we do together, not just from SCG. There's also Dow, there's Chandras, there's another industries. We do together, and from SCG also they make one program. We call it Indonesian Partnership on Plastic Waste Management. So this is a part of the program. So we understood that we cannot do by ourselves, the government. So why we do together? This is important, why we are here for the partnership. And you can see here, we started from 11 March this year. And we can see the roadmap of our program. This is the part we want to make sure that our target, our commitment, how to reduce 70% of marine litter by 2025. Everyone say, Indonesia is so ambitious. I say, no, we need to be ambitious. If you are not ambitious, it's difficult to achieve this target. Because you understand also why we have the meeting with the Minister of Environment, Thailand, to make sure it is not the problem from Indonesian water, we have the problem our water, not just from Indonesian water, Singapore, Philippine water, Vietnam water, Thailand water, we have to sit together. So we ask together. We already, we call it a Declaration Bangkok, it's done. So we have now to how to implement it, this one. This is important. So this is the moment we can do together. And hopefully, this symposium can accelerate our effort together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pak Safri. I think you've given us an excellent example to show how governments from the South can really take a lead in forging strategic partnerships around a very important issue. Well done. Our next speaker is Mr. Hai from Vietnam, and he represents the Vietnam Business Council for Sustainable Development and the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Hai.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, organizer, for inviting me here today. And today, I'm invited to talk about the partnership for the circular economy. And I think let me talk a bit about my organization. Why I talk about my organization? Because my organization is the most dynamic partnership organization in Vietnam. We are called the Vietnam Business Council for Sustainable Development in Vietnam. That is this business-led organization. We in 2010 with the 17 business company in Vietnam, we together with VCCI we established this Vietnam Business Council for Sustainable Development. Now we are under the VCCI. Since we established and up to now, we are focusing on 4 areas. It's a communication and awareness raising for the sustainable development. We are focusing on training, research, and foreign relations. We are one of the 69 members of WBCSD in the world. And since 2018, since 2016 up to now, we have two key activities on our function. One is organizing this national conference on sustainable development, and the second thing is sustainable benchmarking sustainable business in Vietnam. Talking about the circular economy in Vietnam, what we have been doing now. In 2016, this is circular economy. This is the first introduced to the government of Vietnam by the VBCSD. At that time, nobody know about the circular economy. They only think about the reuse, and recycle. They do not know about the circular economy. And since 2016 up to now, And we do a lot of activity focusing on the policy advocacy, raising awareness and training, and also the pilot business model for initiative on the circular economy. And I think this is now VBCSD, we consider this is the pioneer and this is the leading organization to partner with everybody in Vietnam to carry out, to implement the circular economy in Vietnam, especially for the plastic. Let me share with you some specific initiative we are implementing now. This is we call zero waste to nature. We are partnering with the Coca-Cola, Unilever, Dow, and one, this is the local company, local environment company, is TH-ENG. What we focusing on this initiative is segregation at source. Because 10 years in the past, Vietnam, we launched a quite big program on the segregation at source for the waste segregation. But after 5 years, that program failed. And it is for if you want to recycle and recycle, it's the most important thing that we have to segregation at source. That's why we partnering with this company to do that model. And the second initiative we are doing now is to set up a secondary material marketplace. We are partnering with the Pathway 21, UNOSSC, and also the partner for green growth. And we started to implement it at the end of 2018, and up to now is for the 9 months. And we are now carrying out the first impact assessment. For the next year, Vietnam Business Council we partnering with the other organization for the PCI initiative, plastic post-consumer plastic recycle. This is we partnering with 11 FMCG company in Vietnam, and also we are discussing with World Economic Forum to participate in the alliance to end plastic, and also we partnering with some NGO in Vietnam to carry out the post-consumer recycling initiative with the support of the partnership for green growth, and also now we working with the Dow Chemical and also the Deep Sea in Vietnam for using the waste plastic for the roads. That's what we have been doing now. And I would like to finish my presentation is change for better. Waste is not waste, waste by product. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Hai. That was a great example to show how within Vietnam, the Vietnam Business Council has managed to bring businesses across the country together to work in partnership with a multitude of external and internal partners. Thank you. Our last Ignite speaker is Mr. Svein from Starboard.
Savadi Cup. So how can a partnership between two very different companies create amazing and exciting change? So we'll look at a little snapshot of what we do for a living. So just hang in there for a moment.
You can paddle for play, or you can paddle with a purpose. At Starboard, we try to do both. Winning races, catching waves, or saving the planet, every paddle stroke means something. Starboard's 2019 range is not only the best in the world, we're also leading the way to be better for the world. When you step onto a Starboard, you're stepping onto an eco-reincarnation. Using industry-changing materials, we have significantly lowered both the carbon and plastic footprints of our boards, yet enhancing their performance. We like to challenge the conventional while proving the potential. You can feel the difference when paddling a starboard, whether you surf, race or cruise, explore, meditate, or fly. There's a board for everyone, everywhere, and every size. And with 25 years of innovation quality, we don't just talk about the tiki life, we live it. Paddling brings us closer to the oceans, the rivers, and the lakes that cover our planet. And the closer we get, the more we realize it's time for a change. Less pollution, less waste, less damage to the environment.
Let's jump in together and paddle towards a brighter future.
Yeah, we're having fun. It's very lucky to be in this business. So I was born in Arendal, Norway, and I've been surfing around the world for 15 years. 1994, came to Thailand, started Starboard. By 2001, we became the global leaders in our industry. And what we noticed was that we also became the #1 polluter in our industry. And that was not so nice to look at in the morning when we looked into the mirror. So, from the ocean, we learned that humans and nature, we are always one. Pollution leads to loss for all of us. And now we had to work fast, and we had to take expertise from those who've been in the business for a long time. So we partnered up with people that knew ocean pollution and worked on it. #1 in the backyard, Trash Hero, is a Thai organization, fabulous organization. Parley, United Nations Technology Innovation Lab, onwards, SCG, our new partner. We will learn a lot. Then we are supporting these organizations like Trash Hero. We have full eco-staffs for them. We do weekly cleanups with them. We train schools with them, universities and companies. If you wish, just connect with us and we can come into your companies, or if there's a school here, we'll work with you to see what we can share. And concerning circular economy, we're doing upcycling, changeovers. We're just getting started. But you've got a number of different materials that we use. And I guess one that is maybe quite interesting is the one with fishing nets in collaboration with DSM, a Dutch company. And we are there getting fishing nets out of the ocean in India. We bring it in, and we actually are able to upcycle it to use for a lot of different products. Pumps, fins, boxes. It works better than the normal virgin materials we had before. And then we run campaigns with them to promote them. So, commerce can drive destruction or protection of our environment. Now, how to get on the right side? We are still quite lawless. I think, Kakuko, you mentioned 2027. My daughter is 20 years then. She can't wait for that. So that's somewhere we have to work a little bit harder. Then, Korea is the only country around here that are actually serious about CO2 emission laws. Nobody else seems to even have a law about it. So, how can we, in the meantime, help people vote for the planet with well-informed pockets? Well, it's a milk bottle there, right? The content, we can see what's there. The cholesterol I'm not sure about, but you know, the protein is good, right? So we know what we're getting here. This is a paddleboard, all right? So there's a paddleboard content. And we can see there's some bioresin, we can see there's some recycled fishing nets, we can see the CO2 emissions on the right side, and we can see that, yes, it seems like our assembler didn't spend enough time to get these solar systems in place. And then we zoom in. And we can see here that actually, wow, okay, so this total board weight, 6.8 kilo, is actually plastic. You know, this is like fossil fuel-based raw mats, right? That's what we have to deal with. We quit single-use plastic packaging in 3 years. We haven't used plastic for 3 years. It was tough, but you got through that. Nobody ever complained not packaging our products in plastic. All right. So then we thought, what can we do then? So we thought, okay, let's at least try to find a way to bring some trash back when we sell our products. So for every board, we are collecting 1.4 kilo of ocean trash from the area Chonburi in Pattaya. And we can say that per person, 1.1 kilo ocean trash drifts into the ocean every year. So we are doing a little bit more. So if one person buys a board, at least, they take up a little bit more than the average going out. Coming now to the footprint of carbon, very interesting. Mangroves is like almost a national tree here in Thailand and the region. It's amazing. One mangrove tree absorbs 1 ton CO2 over 20 years. Sticks it down in the reeds and down in the soil underneath. It's a magic miracle tree. And as you can see, for every board we sell, we plant a mangrove. So if a board is actually emitting 96 kilo, we are absorbing 1 ton. So if you purchase a board, you're actually absorbing 904 kilos. So you can buy this board and you can save the planet. In that way, we let people understand they can purchase these products or those products. Maybe price is the same, easy choice. Now, plastic labeling and CO2 labeling, it helps informing customers. We try to work this out with the Nobel Peace Center in Oslo, as they want to find ways to really go further and create some proper impact. So to get all this to happen, we set up a plastic offset program. So we first partnered with the Plastic Disclosure Project, and we calculated the plastic footprint from all our fossil fuel raw mats. Then we rated them for toxicity and lifetime, and then we issued an internal tax. With that tax, we created a fund to retrieve plastic trash from Thailand's coastline. We call it POP, and we pay 18 baht per kilo that anybody can give to us. Has to be from the coast, just in a danger zone. 3 more minutes to start saving the world. Okay? So we have to fight. $2,100. We expect 23% GDP decline. It's almost twice what we saw in 1930. This is what happens if we don't start really to act quick on climate change. This guy, super champion. What we learned, solar was a good start. It was very inexpensive, great for us. Then we planted these trees, these 350,000 mangrove trees. And we found out by doing this, and we're doing it every year now, we are like 10 times climate positive. And we see that the most efficient way to drive down absorb all the CO2 from the top here is to plant. We have to replant the world. It's the only way for us, really. The mechanics, the machinery won't do it. We have to plant, all right? And particularly when places are on fire, we have to at least plant as much as we can. We're on a boat all together. So this is a good program we've been working on for 5 years. And the capacity of this 1 billion tree project actually is, I'm Norwegian, so is Tina over here. We can actually absorb the total annual carbon emission of Norway through this project, or even, I think, double the annual CO2 emission of SCG. I mean, there are solutions right here. It's wonderful. So look at Apple. They started it last year. Down in Colombia, they're supporting 27,000 acres. And you can say what they're saying is rare for Apple to say, but we are telling other companies to copy us. Of course. The cost, what is the cost on this, It's like, is the CFO here? Yeah, no. So for us, it's 0.2% of revenue. SCG, fantastic company, 0.2% approximately. They will go 1 time climate positive. And like Jack Ma, there is not a lack of money here. And be competitive. The world's first climate positive cement and chemical producer. Government projects, who wants to offer low emission buildings, there's a lot of business opportunity here. So invest into sustainable education as well. We have a lot of meetings with our different NGOs. And we try to find out how can we drive something that really is going to be big to help the next generation. So develop this fantastic, exciting kids environmental ambassadors for the planet program. Helping kids to actually see the challenges that they have right now and inspire them to find their own solutions. And then we connect them to the different organizations and the different environmentalists so they can actually discuss with those that are out in the fire. And then we find them partners to share this. The UN is one, SCG is another one. Together we can run big. We want this to be global, every single country, as many languages as possible. Kids' Voice and Circular Economy, you heard it this morning. Lily, we have to listen to them. They are our leaders in the future. Lily is a leader. Are they better informed than us? Maybe they are. Thanks. So the circle of the day, we will celebrate what we can do together. And we're thanking you for the amazing work that you all do in your companies, in your cities, in your organizations. And thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Svein. I was particularly gripped by the fact that you really pushed companies to go a little bit further and challenge them to be more responsible. Also, I think you've also showed us through the Starboard experience that you can have responsible fun, and I think it's appealing to the youth factor. When I talked about inclusion earlier, how do we reach out to young people? And Starboard clearly is a youthful company, has a youthful market, but it's really embedded responsibility into the ethos of its products as well. We're setting up now for our panel discussion. We're going to be joined by the 5 speakers that just presented, but we're also going to be joined by Dennis Nkala, who is also from the UN Office of South-South Cooperation, yes, and he is the regional representative for the Asia Pacific. So I'd like to invite our speakers to come up to the dais, and we'll begin our discussion. Free seating. I think we can see that from all the presentations we've had so far, the diversity of partnerships. And you can see some were very broad, so across government, across private sector, with NGOs, and then you can see how others were very deep. And in this session, we want to probe a little bit deeper. As I said, we want to go beyond collaboration. Collaboration is incredibly important. Sometimes it can be a one-off type of collaboration. You can collaborate with someone on a particular project. Partnerships are much deeper. And I think if we want to achieve a sustainable circular economy, we really have to think of long-term partnerships. And those, like a good marriage, for example, are very difficult and challenging to sustain. So partnership implies meaningful ways of working. However, we saw a lot of the positive sides of the partnerships in the examples we just had, but often partnerships are laden with challenges. And this might range from having different partner objectives, working through different generations of people in your collaboration, different organizational cultures or financing models, human resource capabilities, governments in particular as partners. We know governments are so overburdened with so many people wanting to work with them. And in many developing countries, particularly from the South, this is really challenging to try to embark on all the different initiatives that are placed before governments. So clearly your organizations and institutions have made partnerships work for the circular economy. The first question I'd like to direct to you is around how did you make these partnerships work? What were some of the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome these? And as a result, what kind of recommendations can you make for others in the room who might be wanting to engage in a partnership but is really facing some of these challenges head on? Who would like to open with this question? Any volunteers? Dennis?
Thank you. Since I haven't spoken, I thought I would take the first question. In 1955, a number of countries got together in Indonesia on what was called the Bandung Conference. And through this conference, we came up with what are called South-South cooperation principles. These principles have since been reiterated in 1978 in Buenos Aires, and more recently in a lot of other meetings. I mention this because among these principles, there are in particular two very special principles. One is on solidarity, and the other one is on mutual benefits. I wanted to mention this on solidarity. Unless you can empathize with your partner, you're unlikely to be able to achieve the results that you are both targeting. And the second one is that for mutual benefits, you have to also be conscious of what the partner is interested in achieving. And so in working together, based on those principles, you can be able to achieve a joint goal. Partnerships for us are very important. In 2015, the world seemed to wake up to the idea that the problems are created by all of us, but the solutions are also can come from all of us. And hence the putting of the goal number 17 into the Sustainable Development Agenda. And thus emphasized the realization that we are all in it and we all have to solve the world's problems together. And that is a very important starting point of partnerships. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Dennis. I mean, you've set the aspirations very high for us with the ideals. Dulai, can you tell us from your experience? You gave us a great and inspiring example of the toilet project. What were some of the challenges that you encountered in forging the partnerships for that project?
Thank you. Yes, I didn't highlight that we were lucky to find SCG here as a partner, but it has to take more than SCG to actually make this a true reality. A lot of companies with whom we are talking, the first question they ask is, how am I going to make money in this area? And the question is very relevant because we are trying, so I said the market is 4.5 billion people who need new sanitation solution. And these are mainly people who you would say live at the bottom of the economic pyramid. And a lot of companies don't have a very good understanding of what are the business models to introduce product innovation in this market. So, and this is one of the biggest challenges in our sector. So if there's ways for industry partners to share the experience, to share business model, and how you can actually go to this market and be financially successful, that would be very attractive. So we try to forge our program, our project to set up demonstration where we can actually help building those innovative business model as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Satri, please give us your input on this.
Just to let you know, Indonesia, when we started to manage how about the solid waste management problem, finally the conclusion said we lack of the money, funding. And the government now put 1.2 billion US dollar for 5 years. But based on the World Bank study, we need at least 5 billion US dollar. It means it's not enough if the regular, which means the normal budget. So since the World Economic Forum launched in the what's called global partnership on plastic action partnership, and then we started to do in Indonesia, and we asked also the private sector. This year we start from private sector. We understood that it's not enough from the government budget, so we asked also from the private sector to do together how to handle tackling the marine litter. And of course, it is not enough when we just learn, and then we ask also the communities. The communities now, almost Indonesia is almost 8,000 communities in the environment. So we are side by side to do, and of course, thank you for some company here to join this program. We have some pilot project in the big city, in the medium city, and in the rural. This is a part of, so this model, we can implement it when we get the result this year, because we have at least 500 local government. So when we got this result, and we can use, based on this one, we will do this the best solution for this type of the city. We have also some progress with the systemic one of the I think one of the Norway supporting, and we do together. And one of the area we call it the fisherman village. It was the one of the dirtiest. It's become of the cleanest. In 40,000 villages joined, but we need about almost 1-2 years to change their behavior. I want to let you know that to do this one is not just a couple of days. We just started last year. We announced that we want to make some commitment for 7 years until by 2025. So of course, we need also support for all of us, including the private sector, to do together in Indonesia and in this region. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Relating to that, it reminds me that often governments and private sector have different bottom lines, right? Governments are definitely in it for the long haul, regardless of debt or, well, there's no question of profit, really. Svein, from your perspective, coming from the private sector, you mentioned, there's a lot of loss. You have to take a hard look at the beginning. And I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about youth. How do you engage a partnership with youth? How do you attract youth that are very free-minded and maybe not necessarily thinking about these long-term sustainable issues that'll impact their future? How do you engage them in partnership?
Well, like Kakuko, we met, I think, in 2017, and you labeled our company as 50% NGO and 50% private sector. That is fun because you take the side of both and you see how are you here? I mean, you have an ability to do something, so why not partner up with somebody that is really doing something for a cause they believe in without actually getting paid for it? And what we found is that when we are integrating, we can learn a lot about how people actually feel, what they want, what services, what campaigns, what products are they looking for into the future. And we get to hear from the trendsetters. There's no two ways that the next 10, 20 years is going to be a huge shift where people want to purchase stuff that is built properly, and there are services around that are different from the old theme. So we learn that from NGOs. And what they did was to also build a platform for bringing in a lot of eco-interns. And that's been fantastic. I can highly recommend bringing in eco-interns to your companies. It's been fantastic. And then these interns also can go out and do great stuff afterwards. So, but if you want to embark on that, also make sure that these interns, they will want to report direct to the top management. You want to feel what's going on. It's super, it's a great experience. And also what we see is that government officials, we work a little bit with government officials here and there, and it'd be wonderful for us to do more so. The governments often feel that private sector kind of is afraid of moving forward. They don't realize that private sector actually is more keen to move forward than government is. So I think they need to spend more time together, maybe even a little internship there, I don't know. So yeah, there is a lot of common ground here, and there's one particular thing I want to showcase though, is that there has been some greenwashing attempts. And as we said, 50-50 NGO, we see this happening. So if a company really wants to do something, make sure you partner, long-term partner, and see how can you really participate in the activities so you get a buy-in. That is very important. So, go all the way.
Thanks so much. I'm just going to switch over a little bit to look at value chains, which are really part of the discourse in the private sector. And Mr. Hai, maybe you could speak for your perspective of different companies in Vietnam. How do you reach an agreement or a partnership with a company that might be, or an organization that might be outside your value chain? Is that more difficult to forge a partnership?
It is I come from the very special organization. We are the business-led organization, but we are the supporting organization, and we are like the hub to connect all the business for the initiative. That's why for me, for organization like me, we do not have difficulties on mobilizing people or the partnership with the people, or to get the people partnership in each other. But this is the difficulties we face it, that how to harmonize, how to harmonize the interesting of the differences, the different partnership. and different interesting. That's the difference we face. Like for example, when we run this is the Zero Waste to Nature initiative last year. You know, this is in participate in our initiative. We have the 4 company. We have the 3 company: Coca-Cola, Dow Chemical, and Unilever. They have 3 companies. They have 3 different interested because they have different production. And we are like this coordination hub. You have to harmonize all everybody, and for one objective, how to segregation as source properly. That is the way to harmonize the different partners. That we have to commit ourselves on the same objective and deliver that objective.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Dulai, can you comment on that as well? Maybe not even necessarily regard to the toilet project, but others when you're working with partners outside of the traditional value chain for a product.
Yes. So I wanted to give maybe give an example of the toilet, and maybe I can give other example. I agree with the defining the same objective together. What we did in the program that we are running is, before we even get any product out of the door, before there was any industry partner engaged, we started defining an international standard. So we brought together whoever we felt like could be a key stakeholder in making this solution a reality. Because if we had waited too late, it would be a very difficult conversation. We designed a new ISO standard 30500 way before any industry engaged. You had manufacturers, you had the great scientists, you had NGOs, you had government party, you had standard bodies, civil society, everyone for 3 years meeting regularly to discuss what is an off-grid toilet, what is a safe toilet, what is a performance target, and that's not a definition that the Gates Foundation is bringing forward. That's an international understanding of the common goal. Once this is done, I agree with Mr. Hai, it set the goals for everyone. So now let's move. So the other contribution I want to make is Gates Foundation has an organization. We are a philanthropy organization. There's nothing we can do without partnership. Technically, we are an investment company. Our return on investment is measured by the number of lives that our partners can help saving. But on the other hand, if it's a private company, we want them to be profitable in trying to do that. So making sure that we set structure, rules to make sure that each of these partners can actually be connected and work together to deliver on the same mission. This has been like an ongoing work at the Gates Foundation. We try to be better at it. We try to learn from others as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
From your example, you can see that these partnerships don't happen organically. They really do require investment, and they require time, and they require a lot of skill.
Yeah.
So we can't take it for granted, like the success you've had. It's really relied on a lot of hard work.
Yeah. Beyond meeting like this, you have to invest resources. It can be time, it can be your voice, it can be the finance, it can be the energy you have. But just don't sit and expect that, okay, someone else is going to do something. So, and it's not a side job. When we work and we work with partners, it's not like I have my day job and then this is another work. No, it is budgeted in my time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very good point to hit home. Kakuko, I want to turn to you, coming from the United Nations perspective, and when we look at this region, given some of the challenges that we've just highlighted, what role can regional institutions or regional alliances play? These don't necessarily have to be government institutions, but they can be, like ASEAN, for example, or they can be corporate alliances, like the Alliance for Plastic Waste. What's their role? What should their priorities be? What do you see as kind of the priorities right now?
So for regional level, I think the one entity or the partnership that work best, in my opinion, are those that are handling issues or proposing way to address the matters that cannot be addressed in a single country. For example, trade. I'll go back to the example of the plastic pollution. The trade in waste plastic is very hot topic in this region at the moment, which already having the global repercussions. The global recycling industry is $20 billion industry because few countries in this region have changed their policy and law on how the waste can be imported or exported. That global industry have to shift completely their way of business. Now, such issue cannot be looked in or addressed by any single country. It doesn't matter how big you are. So such issue will really merit entity that can handle, bring people from national, local stakeholder together to focus and discuss and coordinate their action at the regional level. ASEAN, I think, is quite fit to start highlight the importance of issue, which they tried to do in the recently adopted ASEAN Marine Debris Implementation Framework and Declaration. G20 also recently adopted the implementation framework of their Marine Litter Action Plan, and waste management and waste the trade is also highlighted as a key topic for country to look into. I also want to mention a little bit about this relationship between business and government. I just want to say that maybe 20 years ago, the business were seen as a sector that only look at the profit. I think that has changed already. Small companies, especially the new one that we call social entrepreneurs, are springing up everywhere. And by default, their mission is not only about profit making. They want to do good to the society, to the planet, while making enough profit to continue their work. Big companies, multinational like SCG, I don't think they are only driven now by profit, because you have obligation to stakeholder, and the United Nations Environment Program choose our partner very carefully. We partner with SCG. We partner with the Coca-Cola company, IKEA, also the Starboard, and few others. Why? And Central Group also. Why? Because they have shown that they want to do more than corporate social responsibility. They are willing to share their business information, and through their core business, want to get closer to a more sustainable way of business being.
Thanks. Mr. Hai, I want to turn to you one more time. Because your association is quite unique, it's an alliance of businesses within Vietnam that are looking at sustainability. Is there something similar in other countries in the ASEAN region, for example, or is there any network of business councils that are looking at sustainable development? Or should there be, if there isn't?
I think, as far as I know, in Asian country, I think is there the business council for sustainable development in almost of Asian country. Especially, I think in Thailand I also have, in Singapore also have, and I think I know.
So my question is, are they talking to each other?
Yeah,
so is there some kind of regional platform?
Yeah, we are. You know, it is for all the BCSD. We are. It is one of the. We are in the same loop of WBCSD. And for example, so for the plastic pollution or some is the same issue, and we are discussing and we are working together for the initiative.
Thank you. So I'm going to turn to my next question. Turning specifically now to Mr. Safri, we want to talk a little bit more about Indonesia. So you gave us quite an enlightening presentation on how the circular economy is working and in Indonesia and the work of your industry. There's a lot of people here today and in the conference who might be interested in Indonesia, to invest in Indonesia and to invest sustainably in Indonesia. So what kind of partnerships are you looking for and what are the entry points? If someone wants to come and invest in Indonesia in the circular economy, where do they go? What do they do? What should be the first steps?
We start for the one sample, what the Danone do now. They use the what's called 100% recycled bottle. When they use the 100% recycled bottle, they need more bottle waste from bottle plastic from the other. The problem in Indonesia, because the Indonesia spread, the area is too big, and then the problem when you transport it from the area is far from the industry of plastic, factory, it take, the cost is a little bit high. So the government give some subsidies for the plastic bottle waste. They can bring with some subsidies for the areas from eastern part to go to the center to go to the industrial plastic. It's one of the subsidies. This is the part how we can recollect again the bottle plastic bottle use from the other area. The second I just mentioned you, in Indonesia at least 10 million ton plastic every year. And from based on the data, it's just about 30% in unmanageable. It means it's opportunity for the one of the potential for locality to do this circular economy. And we started for let's say example from Tokyo. How many waste to energy they build? At least for one city like that, at least they have at least 7 incinerator for waste to energy. Indonesia, Jakarta, it produce about almost 8,000 ton per day, just started from one waste to energy. It means at least Jakarta need at least 3 or 4. We don't thinking about the other cities in Indonesia. We already now the president decree how to accelerate this potential activity for circular economy, how to produce the electricity by the waste. But other way, there are some company also to offer, because so many plastic, they can use the plastic for the fuel, not just for energy. And other thing also, for the low cost or low price of the plastic, we are also now started with the public work, the Minister of Public Work, to use for the plastic tarot. What the SCG also did it in what's called in Thai. And this is the same thing, because we started 2017, it's already 100 kilometers. We just started. The problem now, how we offer to the company, not of course to the locals. If you have possibility, they call it mining plastic. In the dumping area, they can mining the plastic to collect the plastic and to reuse again, become one of maybe for the fuel or other purpose. So this is also opportunity we offer to you for the company, that not just you can use the other plastic, but Indonesia has the abundance of plastic waste. So we started, since 3 months ago, we stopped to import, because the import is easy for the private sector. Get the plastic is just easy to collect the number of plastic. But now we have, when we stop with the import plastic, it means we have the what's called effort to collect all the plastic waste in Indonesia. This is also one of the opportunity for us. That the partnership in this case, the government asks for the collecting system, because we understand if the private sector do the collection system more effective and more low cost and is more efficient how to collect the plastic waste for other purposes.
That's a great example of the partnership between government and private sector, because the government has to really set the regulatory framework and say, we're not importing any more plastic, and then it's, leave it or try to rely more on the private sector to do what they can with this plastic that's already circulating nationally. Thank you. Mr. Hai, what about from your perspective, for Vietnam, where are you looking for sustainable partnerships for circular economy, and how can people find how to invest in Vietnam that way?
Let me say with the same point with this is the panelists come from Indonesia. I think this is The story of Vietnam is the same story of Indonesia. It's 1 month ago we banned the import of the plastic. And you know, it is some small and medium company, they use as a recycled material. Even they have to close, but the government have to regulate very strictly on the import of the plastic waste. And I think it is in Vietnam. If you want to entry to Vietnam, I think a lot of opportunity and for the circular economy in Vietnam, because you know it is in Vietnam for this year and next year, a lot of it is the framework and new policy will be issued will be for facilitation circular economy model in Vietnam for the next decade, from the 2021 to 2030.
Thanks. Anyone else want to jump in on that? I think we were talking specifically about countries, so I think I'll move to the last question. We heard when Dulai spoke earlier how challenging it can be and the types of resources that we need to make partnerships possible, to make them really work for circular economy. So my last question to the panel is, what kind of infrastructure is needed to help possible circular economy partners find each other? So today I've learned about all kinds of new initiatives, all kinds of interesting partners that I wouldn't have known about before, or my organization, the Asia Foundation. We work in 18 countries in Asia, but now I've discovered there are so many different people and different partnerships that we could forge in our work, and I'm sure other people have found that similar. You know, what kind of institutional framework or infrastructure do we need to help people meet each other, find more deeper ways to collaborate? Dennis?
Yeah, I'll try to start again from the global level. As we know, a lot of the birds that happen, like the pollution, the plastics, they affect individuals and countries, even though some of them haven't had an input into generating those wastes. But what is important then is what do we do? And I'm trying at a point where we look at a place like the small island states of the Pacific, for example, where they have serious concerns about climate change, about the gathering of plastics in their oceans, depleting their main means of livelihoods, which is ocean resources. And so you need to have partnerships that can address this kind of situation, because in their case, most of these countries don't have the resources to address these issues. And so you have to be able to work with a multiplicity of partners, starting from the policy level, the advocacy by the governments of the member states themselves, but maybe proactive action by the regional institutions that are operating in that area. And then, of course, you need the support of the multilateral system. And finally, but not least, in order that we don't continue to perpetuate this situation, we need the private sector, we need the individuals, the households to also contribute. So resources that are required come in all shapes and forms in terms of the policies we put together, the frameworks that we put together, the restraints that we put in terms of use of resources, and also putting those resources as we do to bring people together to discuss these issues and come up with some answers.
Thanks, Dennis. Kakuko, what is UNEP doing to try to build some of this architecture that's needed to bring diverse partners? Dennis raises such an important point about income disparity amongst people, but also between countries. It's very difficult for many countries to find the resources to work on a circular economy. How is UNEP helping to build that infrastructure?
When I think about infrastructure, I think about both soft sort of capacity
Absolutely.
/ infrastructure and also infrastructure, hardware and the funding. Let me start with funding one. We have heard earlier from the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. I must say that the UN Environment Program has we are really watching their progress very closely because we have very high hope for what they can achieve. Because on the waste management, we have had a long-term deficiency in investment going to local administration. In an ideal world, the local government, with support from national government, should be able to fund a sustainable waste collection, segregation, and disposal system. But that ideal world, unfortunately, do not exist in majority of the world. So we need the investment coming from another source because that problem have been there for decades and we can't wait any longer. So alliance like the one we heard earlier has a very strong target to bring that long needed investment into the local government and administration. So we really hope that would materialize in Asia, specifically in Southeast Asia very soon. Another very important soft part of infrastructure, which is very needed and where UN Environment help most, is to bring science to decision makers, particularly those scientists, NGOs, activist decision makers, including those may not be so prominently represented today, like informal workers, marginalized populations, women, for example. Well, this room, I think representation is much better than the earlier bigger room. But, when you have different gender group, then, the additional perspective about SDG and the inclusiveness usually come about, including creativity. So in November in Bangkok, we'll be organizing something we call Sea of Solutions Week. It's a partnership week. I hope many of you will be there. SCG, I understand, will be very keen to be partner with us, and where we would like to bring the partners in the plastic pollution solutions, covering very wide aspect and parts of the society: women, informal sector, marginalized community, migrant, NGO, government, and the opinion and decision maker in Asia.
Thank you. Dulai, from your perspective, the Gates Foundation is a unique organization, founded from a very large multinational corporation, but has managed to address these issues at multiple levels, very much has policy influence, as well as doing very on-the-ground, highly impactful work. So from your perspective, what kind of architecture, soft or hard, do we need to advance this agenda that helps bring partners together in particular?
Thank you. I think what we all have in common here is the challenge to build and develop a new industry. Circular economy, yes, it's very new. I heard a lot today about all the new alliances that are being formed, 8 months ago, 6 months ago, 1 year ago. So it's very telling. So this is what we have in common. So we have to be working across the soft and hard issues. Soft, you mentioned it. Who are the policymakers to engage? Yes, the UN is on the table, but what's the framework that would define what a successful or sustainable circular economy? What are the regulations? What are the institutions who would be implementing this? So if it was the Gates Foundation working on this, this would be like a major undertaking, because that's what we do. We have a division, 100% global advocacy on issues that we tackle. The R&D was mentioned by the CEO this morning. Building a new industry, you have to bet on innovation. what are the best practices, and how do you roll out those innovations into the market. We have to make the bet that if we are addressing in the value chain a market failure, that has to be addressed by the private sector. How do we make sure that the rules are set for the private sector to be financially viable? What type of relationship between government and private sector would support that? Investment is key. You would go to any investment window today. They do business as usual. And we're sitting here thinking the next 25 years, and all the funding sources are like very conventional. So unless this is disrupted, it would be very challenging to see quick success. So that would be one major area, I would say, for any of those alliances which are being put in place right now to also address. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. You raised a really important issue as well about measurement. And I think that's an area, well, it's an area that we're obsessed with in the development cooperation landscape, how to measure impact. And normally we don't think of it in financial dollar figures. We often think of it about impact on people, whereas the private sector is often thinking about results or output in terms of financial indicators. So here's an area, I think, where collaborative partnerships become quite important. How to measure social impact is an area that the private sector can learn a lot from those of us that have been struggling for years in civil society or the development sector. Thank you very much. We're right on time. I really appreciate all the answers and the insights we've had from our panel, and they have a lot more to offer. So we're going to turn it over to the house, the floor now. We're going to do this in the old-fashioned way, as opposed to putting the questions up on the screen. I think we can still do that, but we have helpful people around with microphones. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. Try to keep your questions or comments very short, and I will take them in groups of 3. We have a few minutes for questions. Anyone? Okay, so there's one, the gentleman with the hat. I'll take 2. Is there another question somewhere? 2, the gentleman in front, and then one more somewhere. Someone raise your hand. Anyone? Not yet. Okay. So, 3 over here. Okay, so number 1, please, sir.
Thank you for the panel. I'm Thai pupil and a lecturer in a university in Thailand. I'm very interested in this topic and very much concerned with this problem for a long time. As I understand, your explanation touched to the point that's the problem of the developing countries, so much more than those in the developed countries. But to my understanding, I think the problem of the countries or the developing countries are from the people who is not responsible enough or doesn't take responsibility individually to take care of this problem itself. When we talk about the collaboration and partnership, it seems to me that it's not the first step. It's just the second step. The first step is how can we convince the people in the community to take care of these problems themselves first. Otherwise, there will be no ways to eliminate this problem. And the secondly is, I just wonder that the developing countries always a part of the supply chain of the products. that we produce for the developed countries, for the final products. Why those developed countries that take the primary products from the developing countries didn't do anything to help solve the problem of the developing countries. They already gone to the better society. But the people in the struggle in the developing countries still struggle to survival. Particularly right now, we are on the state of the recession. Economic recession is coming in the near future. This is a big problem we have to be confronted with. I'd like to address this question to some of you who represent United Nations and some other organizations. What can we do? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Sir, over here. We'll take the 3 questions and then I'll turn to the panel. Please go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you, the panel, for a great discussion so far. I work with Unilever, and we're already working with some of you on some of the initiatives we talked about today. One of the challenges we see to be a truly circular economy in practice is the lack of infrastructure in terms of segregation and collection, especially to the gentleman from Indonesia and from Vietnam. Based on the experiences you've had so far, what are the 1 or 2 steps that we need to practically take as both government and private enterprise to speed up the segregation and collection infrastructure, without which we can't really have a circular economy? Thank you.
Thanks for that very practical question. The 3rd question was here.
Hello. I'll give a very short question. It's very simple because there's a lot of CEOs and whatnot here as well. So out of all your experiences with collaborating, just a practical example of how to convince with your objectives, how to set those KPIs or any impact measures that you think could convince the CEOs into, looking more into this, such as, SCG. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, the first question highlighted age-old problems that we have around post-colonialism, directed towards our UN colleagues, but I would welcome a response from someone else as well. Sure. Do you have a mic?
I am sorry, I didn't hear very clearly about your question, but this is the one I hear very clearly about your statement, that this is the very important thing that you say, that if we should mobilize the support from the community. Yes, this is a very important thing. Let me say with you that this is the story in Vietnam, that, and also I've been responsible for the college in the level as well, for the infrastructure for circular economy. It's 10 years in the past when we do segregation at source, the program, and with a lot, with a lot of support from the different foreign country, and also with a very, very good political will at that time, but the program failed. Why fail? At the beginning, it's the community, they participate in the program, they try to do with their best to segregation all the way as short as the family. And they support the government, they support the program. But this is the infrastructure of the environment company. They cannot collect it a segregated waste to bring it from the family to the landfill, to infrastructure of the environment company. That's the thing. And that's the problem still happen until now. You know what? And that's why each community, they said that when they secret, but they don't see the impact. They don't see any impact. They don't see any change. They don't support anymore. That's the most important thing, that we need to mobilize the support from the community. That's why when we recall the secretion at source last year, we try to work with this community. We work with very clearly, very carefully with every family. And also we also work with one NGO to try to collect what the community to secret at their family to bring to the company, environment company. And that, I think this is now is a program. I think this is the border now. All I can say is a success. And now is the Ho Chi Minh City. They want to scaling up that border in Ho Chi Minh City. But the problem is still the problem. The infrastructure for the circular economy, infrastructure to collect this circulation waste, bring it for the recycle factory. And still problem. And that's why it's one very model recycle factory in Ho Chi Minh City now. They do not have its material for production.
While you have the mic, can you answer the second question as well about how to step up that practice in Vietnam?
You know, it is now in Vietnam. Now we try to work with different private sector like Unilever, like Dow, like Coca-Cola, like just Alliance to stop plastic waste, and try to build to develop a recycle industry in Vietnam. And we hope that step by step for the next decade we will have. And I think this is what can I say with this is the colleagues in Unilever that I think next year or 2020 is the three environment companies that will have the infrastructure to collect secret waste. Yeah. Thank you.
Dennis or Kakuyu, do you want to take the question of the North-South divide?
Thank you very much. I think there are a number of southern countries that would largely tend to agree with you that not enough is being done to address their situation. And their situation is they are aspiring countries for development. But at the same time, they are increasingly facing these negatives, which I call the bads, which are generated from the practices that have been ongoing for a very long time. Just to give you an example, a few weeks ago, there was a summit in the Pacific, small island states, and they wanted immediate actions to be taken in the region to mitigate climate change. What happened is that there wasn't quite agreement with some of the major players in the region, particularly their partners, developed partners. And the frustration is very evident from the newspaper articles that came from the region and so on. And so in that regard, yes, a lot of countries feel not enough is being done. But the question maybe is, are there any positives that we can see in terms of the way forward? Because we cannot look back in the past. What happened, and what is left is to try to rectify it. But I think where they become very concerned is the lack of change in terms of behavior, even in the face of what science is telling the community. That some of the countries in the Pacific will be inundated by, I think by 2060, completely inundated, and maybe inhabitable not too far from the 2030 Sustainable Agenda date. And so what is important, I guess, for us in the United Nations is that we continue to advocate for working together. I started with talking about positives, how if we empathize, if we have solidarity, we would look at each other and say, we have to help those Pacific islands. And that maybe the economy is not necessarily the most important thing if people are facing a stark reality that in a few decades they will not exist at all. So, yes, I agree with you, but let's not throw away the baby with the water. There are some positives that are taking place in terms of collaboration, and we cannot, with one label, describe all developed countries. There are some who are making an effort, particularly in their locales, to make sure that the issues of circular economy are enhanced. And lastly, I wanted to say that even those that are not extending that to other countries, as long as they're doing it within their own countries, it would eventually have an impact in terms of how we use the resources, how we end up with these negatives that are spreading into the other countries. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to turn to the last question, which is a very important one around KPIs. And Svein, I'm going to come to you first. So KPIs can be the bane of our existence. You know, they're really, really challenging. And this is something that is differentiated across sectoral groups or institutional groups. How can we make KPIs manageable for circular economy and attractive for the private sector?
We need to find a way where we can share the KPIs with our customers and with other companies. That is very important. It's about a little bit of competition and see how that becomes a drive. And KPIs can be around so many things. And as we focused on today, it was like, how can we drive down our plastic consumption? How can we do things around it? How can we drive down CO2 emissions? How can we showcase that? How can that become competitive? And this is quite simple, actually. So I think we can achieve that as soon as this system starts to be known around the world, that this is a new standard that should be as simple as what's on the content of the back of a milk bottle. So that just to bring it out there, that these things are coming. And then the first companies to start to bring their KPIs in front of the audience, they are clearly the leaders. And you know, pioneering is a pretty big prize.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone else like to comment on that question? Yeah, Dulay?
I think this is a question, maybe an opportunity for the alliances that are being formed. So I worked for the water utilities before, and one of my job was benchmarking. You do the benchmarking because you want to use actually best practices and promote this among the members. So there are many alliances being formed here. This is an opportunity to actually use that and benchmark industries against each other and set references. Like I said before, all this is part of building new industries, so it's an opportunity. We can learn from each other. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any last comment? Yeah, Satri or Kakuko, go ahead.
Yes, on the KPI, what I would like to ask the big multinationals and other companies alike that are doing so well with the setting up KPI benchmarking and monitoring KPI, I really would like them to share their know-how with the other company who are yet to come to the stage in terms of, you know, what they need to do with KPI. There are many companies still in Thailand that never done sustainability reporting or included environmental performance in their corporate reporting. If the big company like SCG and the well-experienced company Starboard could reach out to more of those companies who are yet to come to this thinking and the business running, it will be very, very helpful for many. You may think that you are helping your business competitor, but overall, I think your sector doing better sustainably will benefit all of us.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Sabri, do you have a last
especially
comment?
for Unilever, because they have some program with Indonesia. So like the last program is what to call it, they give for the Dropbox. But if you see Unilever, one of the biggest producer of the plastic consumable in Indonesia. So we ask also from the Unilever, please you produce the foam of your product is easy to recollect, but something in the sachet way is difficult. Is in the number of and then from the plastic layer. This is also a part that we discuss with the special from Unilever. How can you produce something that we can easy to recollect? This is important. It's a part because so many Indonesian people use the product of the Unilever that we want to make sure the problem of the waste from your product we can recollect again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank our panel so much for all their excellent comments. I'm going to try to summarize in the next 2 minutes what we've discussed today. I think we've covered a lot of really important issues. The first issue is the importance if you want to achieve a successful partnership around circular economy, it's really important to have common objectives, and that's easier said than done. And so having common objectives, having a common purpose, figuring out what your different roles are requires resources, and it requires effort and requires a lot of commitment. So before we get to the action, we have to invest in the process, and that's critically important, and create some sort of framework for that. So that's the first point. The second is that bottom lines may be very different. Dulai said earlier how Gates Foundation, they measure their bottom line is about people's lives. Governments have different bottom line. They're thinking about national interests as well as the lives of their citizens. In the UN sector, in the international development sector, we also think differently. Corporates think about financial profits. But what we are seeing, and I think we see this today in the discussion, that the bottom lines are really converging. And it's in that converging space where we see opportunity to work together more. A third is, in our diversity, we have an expression in the development sector called common but differentiated responsibilities, and this comes out of the discussion around South-South cooperation, and I think that applies really well to collaborating on circular economy. If we have common objectives, but we work in different sectors, we have different specializations, we have different roles to play, how to bring those together, which is really important. And here we can see that policy and the enabling environment is as important as the action and the resources. And this is why it's very important to have collaboration between government and the corporate sector and civil society. We talked about infrastructure and architecture, and I can't stress how important this is. Regional infrastructure and the role that regional organizations can play, whether governmental or private or councils, they can be important in terms of bringing together a learning forum, for example, a platform for learning and sharing, also for setting principles, establishing shared KPIs that we can apply for our work across the region, also for the importance of data. Data is incredibly important. It arms people. It gives people the ammunition they need to advocate for many of these resources. How do we collect that data? Who has the resources to collect that data, particularly disaggregated data? We need to know more about the needs of the poor, women, and we heard from Mr. Hai, communities are critically important. So often we don't have data from communities, and if you don't understand what the community's needs are, when you're designing some of these projects, it can fail, as we heard. So how do we collect that data, how do we invest in it, and how do we pass it on to the people that are trying to do this amazing work? And the last point, I think, that came out in the end is that we need to look for solutions that are not only technically sound, but that are also politically possible. Politics often gets in the way. Solutions are never just technical. We're talking about a lot of technical issues when we talk about circular economy, but we really have to bear in mind the politics, both the big P politics and the small p politics, because that can really make or break the success. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today in this discussion, for your good questions. I'm sorry we didn't have time for more. And please join me in a round of applause to thank our exceptional panelists.
Yeah, and thank you all very much, our panelists and our moderator. Thank you very much. And today we've learned a lot about the examples of how the one organization can drive the circular economy practice into the reality by creating the collaborations with other, or you can say the partnership with other as well. And it's not about the silo, breaking out all the silo, but trying to a diversity of partnership, like take a photo together. It's a memorable session like a Breakout 3. We discuss on the partnership for circular economy. Let's take a group photo together. And now thank you all for coming. And now after this, it's time for the break. Let's take 30 minutes break in front of the convention downstairs on the 22nd floor. And see you again on 4 p.m. because we have a very interesting session. Have a strategic proposal presentation. For Thailand Waste Management Way Forward by Prime Minister General Prayut Chan-o-cha from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. at Plenary Hall downstairs, and see you at 4 p.m. And today, thank you all for coming and be a part of this amazing event. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Thank you. ขอบคุณค่ะ